Hello champs, this is the part 1 video of exception handling in Java. In this video, I try to cover all questions that are occurred in your mind for after listening the word exception handling in Java. What is the meaning of exception? What are the types of exception handling? How we are able to write the code so we are able to handle the exception in Java. What is the meaning of try catch block and what is the requirement of this type of block? What is the finally block? Means all information related to the exception handling is covered in this video. So this is the part 1 video. Exception is two types of exception that is provided by the Java. First one is checked exception, second one is unchecked exception. So in this video I am trying to cover all information related to the unchecked exception. After that in the part 2 video I want to cover the second type of exception, that is checked exception. So unchecked exception are covered in this video. So let's start the video. So let's start the video. First point which I am talking about, that which is what is the meaning of exception. What is the meaning of exception? After that I want to start the full concept of exception handling. Okay. So what is the meaning of exception in programming point of view? So exception is nothing but abnormal or unexpected event that occur in our normal program. After occurring that exception in a program, the normal flow of the program, the normal execution of the program is disturbed. What I'm saying, I want to repeat that. Exception is a abnormal or unexpected event that occur in our program which disturb the normal flow of a program. What is the meaning of that? If you not understand, so please I want to write some line of code so you are able to understand that. Just I am creating a class practice, and in that I am creating main method. Now I want to print some message here, like I want to print first line. What I'm writing, bro? Now, okay, now simple I am comes here, and then I want to write here 5 divided by 0, which is invalid, I know, but I want to tell you what is example of the exception handling, so I have to do that. Now again I want to print the message last line. Now, okay, so we're able to see the what I'm writing in the main method. I'm just writing first line, which print the message first line. In second line I am printing the message 5 divided by 0. What is the output? I don't know. I don't know what is the output of that second line. Let's see. And in the third line I'm just writing the last line. So run the program and see the output. Now let's see the output. You're able to see the output here. First line is completely right execution. Okay. In second line there is a problem. Read the message. Exception in thread main java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0 add practice.main method. What I'm saying, this is the main concept of exception. You are able to see this. Exception in the thread main java.lang arithmetic exception divide by 0 add practice.main method. What is the message of that? Meaning is, this is the message, means in this line exception is occurred and that exception is handled by the Java. Now what happened when this exception is occurred in second line? When the program is executed at that moment of time, main method start the running. First line is completely execute. When control comes into second line, at that moment of time it found exception in that syntax. Okay, Java means at a current time Java automatically find that this is the exception, means we are not able to divide any number with the 0. So this is the exception case. So Java automatically handle that exception, and after occurring that exception, rest of the code, means remaining code of the main method is not execute. You're able to see that the remaining code after occurring the exception is not execute. Means whenever exception is occurred in our program, so normal flow of a normal execution of a program is disturbed. Okay, so this is the example of simple example of exception, okay, in the programming language. Now the second point I want to tell you one thing. What is the flow of exception? Okay, so first of all I think you are understand what is the meaning of exception. Second I want to tell you, after understanding the exception, so we have to write some line of code, or we have to do that, or this job are done by the Java. In this simple example, the handling of the exception part, means the handling job of the exception is done by the Java itself. I'm not writing any line of code, so we are able to handle that. Java itself handle the exception. So this is the known as exception handling, means occurring the exception as well as handling the exception. When we are combining both the things, then the new terms is come, that is exception handling. So this is the topic of the video, exception handling in Java, how we are able to handle the exception. So in this example, Java itself handle the example. We are also able to write some line of code, so we are able to handle the exception. So let's start the second point of the video, that is what is the flow of exception, what is happened behind the scene whenever in this second line exception is occurred. So we have to see that. Now let's see what happened behind scene whenever the exception is occurred in second line. So let's start the video. Now we have to understand that first point, whenever exception is occurred in any method, what I'm saying, in any method, whenever in any line of code exception is occurred, at that moment of time it creates an object. What I'm saying, whenever in any method exception is occurred, at that moment of time it creates the object. That object is known as a exception object. Understand? Whenever exception is occurred in any method, that moment of time it creates the object. That object names as a or called as a exception object. That object created by Java itself, and that object, what is the task of that particular object, that is automatically created by the Java whenever the exception is occurred in the second line. Whenever the exception is occurred in any method, that moment of time Java itself create the object, and that object contain the information about the exception. Means that object contain the information, means what is the name of the exception, what is the description of the exception, means the related information about exception are contained by the particular object that is itself created by the Java. Okay, now what is after happen when object is created, and that object contain the information about the exception. Now after creating the object by the Java in second line, means in second line object is created, and the information about that object, information about that exception is contained by the exception object, and that object is throw, Java throw the object, particular object, and to the Java default handling or Java default exception handling mechanism. There are two place of exception handling part. First place where the exception is occurred. Second place where we are able to write some line of code which is capable for handling the exception. What I'm saying, in exception handling there are two major portion of the code. First portion where the exception is occurred. Second portion where we are able to write some line of code which is capable for handling the exception. In this program, I am simple writing first portion of the program where the exception is occurred. I am not writing second portion of the program by which we are able to handle the exception. So this line of code, means second portion of handling the exception, is done by the Java itself in this simple program. Okay. So in any program, if we are talking about the exception handling, so there are two major portion. First portion which is in which exception is occurred. Second portion in which is contains some line of code which is capable for handling the exception. Okay. Now what is happen? What is the first portion? What is second portion? So first portion where the object is created after occurring the exception, and that object contain the message information about that particular exception or a description. That object Java throw the particular object from portion 1 to portion 2. That this is second portion which contains some line of code, and that portion catch the object that is throws from the first portion. Understand? From first portion Java throw the particular object that is contain the information about the exception. Java throw the exception object from first portion, and that object is catch by the second portion, and second portion catch that particular object that is thrown from the first portion, and that second portion contain the particular object, get the particular object that contain the message, and by using that object, the second portion fetching the information about the exception and printing the to the user, so we are able to see the message that is thrown from the second portion. So I am just writing first portion of code where the exception is occurred, and automatically Java create the object and that contain the information about this particular exception, and this exception, this object throw from the Java from first portion, from second line through to the catch block. This is a catch block. Means what is the meaning of catch block I am talking about later, but for now just understand this is the second portion which is contains some line of code which is catch the which are able to track the object which is thrown from the first portion, and this line second portion of code which is used for fetching the information from the object and showing to the user. So this operation is done here. I'm in second line. You are able to see this. See that second portion, when second line, whenever the through exception is occurred, at that moment of time object is created and that object contain the information, and that object is thrown from the this line of second line to the default, means Java default Java, or what I'm trying to say, default catch mechanism or default Java handling portion 2. I'm talking about portion. So Java portion, second portion, Java itself through the control from the this portion to this second portion. So second portion contain the object that is thrown from the first portion, and this second portion is capable for handling the exception. So if I'm running the program, you are able to see this. So whatever the message is printed, whatever this message is printed, this message is printed from the second portion. Understand? From first portion only object is created, and that object contain the information, and that object thrown by the Java, and this second portion take the that object that is thrown from the first portion, and this second portion are capable for printing the message exception in thread main java.lang.arithmetic exception divided by 0. This message is printed by the second portion, which is known as the handling part. Means first portion which is where the exception is occurred, second portion where the exception is handled. So this is the flow of the program. I mean, this is a simple flow of a exception handling program. In each and every program of exception handling, there is a two portion. First portion where the exception is occurred, second portion where the which take the object that is thrown from the first portion, and that second portion is used for capable for handling the exception by fetching the information from the object. Understand? This is a normal flow of a program. If you not understand till now, so after giving an example, I'm trying to again trying to repeat the flow of the how actually flow of the things are happening. So now talking about the types of exception handling. So checked exception and unchecked exception. What is the meaning of checked? What is the meaning of unchecked? Let's talk about one by one. So checked exception is nothing but a exception that is checked by the compiler at compile time. Means when I writing some line of code at compile time, that exception is checked by compiler. Okay, means exception that is checked by the compiler at a compile time is known as a checked exception. What is the meaning of unchecked exception? Unchecked exception is also exception, but this exception is not checked by the compiler. If you are watching this example, so this is an example of unchecked exception, because this exception is not checked or not tackled by the compiler at a compile time. This exception is handled or tracked by the at a runtime. Means unchecked exception is handled or checked by the Java, means JVM, at a runtime, not at a compile time. So we have to understand the difference between checked and unchecked. Checked exception is checked by the compiler at a compile time, but when I'm talking about the unchecked exception, so unchecked exception is checked by the Java at a runtime, not at a compile time. So this is the information about the types of exception that are provided by the Java. Now let's talk about the some other classes, predefined classes that is used that are provided by the Java, which is used for handling the exception. Okay, what I'm saying, I'm telling you what are the predefined classes which is used for handling the exception, which is provided by the Java. So let's talk about one by one. So we have to understand, we already know that there is an object class that is provided by the Java. That object class is a parents class, indirectly parents class of all the predefined classes, and not only predefined but user defined classes also. What I'm saying, all the predefined classes as well as user defined classes be the child class of the parents class. That parents class is known as an object class. Okay, so object class have a child class that is known as a throwable class. So throwable is a class which is used for, which provide too many subclasses or child classes which is used for handling the exception. Now what is the throwable class? So throwable class is a simple class which contain an instance variable as a string, which is used for taking the message or exception message which we want to deliver from the portion 1 to portion 2. Okay, so this string variable or instance variable contained by the throwable class, and throwable class also contain one method that is named as a get message method. Get message method is used for printing the value of the particular instance variable, that is string. Means the printing the value of the instance variable string. This method is used, that is get message. Means throwable class contain one string variable which is used for taking the information. Second is the contained by this class, throwable class, that is method. That method name is get message method. So get message method is used for printing the message that contained by the particular string variable. Okay, now I'm talking about the what is the subclasses, what are the child classes that are contained by the throwable class. So throwable class have two child classes. First one is error class. Second one is exception class. What is the meaning of error? I'm not talking about error in this video. Error is a different part from the exception. Okay, so exception is class and error is class. So throwable class have directly two child classes. I'm now talking about the exception class. So exception class have too many child classes. So exception class, there it categorized into two terms. First one is checked exception. Second one is unchecked exception. So I'm trying to say exception class have three child class. What is the three child class? Exception class has three child class. That is, first one is first exception, that is runtime exception. What is the first exception class? What is the first child class of exception class? So that is known as um, a runtime exception. Okay. Second child class of exception class is class not found exception. Third child class of the exception class is IO exception. Okay. So runtime exception is a unchecked exception. In this video, I'm trying to cover all information regarding the unchecked exception. So runtime exception also have too many child classes that is used for handling the exception. So first one is arithmetic exception, then null pointer exception, then illegal argument exception, and illegal argument exception is also have a child class, that is number form exception. So these are the some predefined classes that is used for handling the exception in second portion, means in catch block or handling mechanism. Okay, so these are the classes which is used for by the Java for handling the exception. Okay, now all throwable subclasses, all throwable child classes contain one constructor. What I'm saying, all throwable child classes contain one constructor. That constructor take one argument as a parameter, which is string. In that particular argument, we have to pass the information about the exception that is occurred in the any method. Understand? All the subclasses of a throwable class contain one constructor. That constructor take one argument as a parameter, which is string. In that string, we have to pass, or Java itself pass the information about the exception that is occurred at the any method. Okay, so this is all information about the types of exception, and the second one is about the throwable class. Now now I'm talking about what are the possible cases where we are able to handle the exception. What I'm saying, what are the possible cases of handling the exception in Java? So let's take example one by one. First of all, I remove this line. Now I'm going to write all possible cases. So all possible cases of handling the exception in Java. Okay, so first case, that is default throw and default catch. Second is default throw and our not default throw, our throw, and second case is our throw and default catch. What is the meaning of that? I am trying to summarize all of them after writing the all cases. Third is default throw and our catch, and fourth one is our throw and our catch. Okay, so now these are the four possible cases by which in Java we are able to handle the exception. So first of all, I'm talking about one by one all of them. So first case is default throw and default catch. What is the meaning of that? Means throwing the exception means creating the object. What I'm saying, creating the object at moment of time whenever the exception is occurred in any method, creating the object of the particular type of exception and giving them information into that particular object, and throwing the object from portion 1 and throwing the object and catching the object by portion 2 and handling the exception. Means all the things from portion 1 to portion 2, all things are done by the Java itself. This is the first case of handling the exception, that is known as the default throw and default catch. We are not writing any line of code for throwing or creating the object or throwing the object. Second, I'm not writing any line of code for second portion, means for handling the exception. Okay, I'm not writing all these two cases, all two portion problem or solution done by the Java itself. So this is the known as the default throw and default catch. So let's example of that first of all. So I'm just writing system.out.println, not same example again and again. I want to do one thing here. If I want to create a string, okay, str, which contain now null, means I'm just creating a variable which is a string type, which does not contain any type of value. This does contain null. So if you know that in Java, string, this str is not a predefined data type. This is an object. This is the object. Okay, now this object, this is a reference variable. Str is a reference variable of string type. String is a predefined class. Okay, so this is a reference variable. In that example, this reference variable str does not point to any object, means this reference variable contain the null value. Okay, now I just want to print what? I just want to print the length of str is. So str dot length, by using length method, I just want to print. Okay, if this error is a unchecked, if this exception is a checked exception at that moment of time, after writing this line of code, automatically compiler compile it and throw the exception. Okay, but compiler does not tackle the exception. So this is a checked exception. This is an example of unchecked exception. Okay, I'm just creating the string, which is I'm just creating the reference variable of a string class that does not point to any object. Now I want to print the length of the particular string. Okay, so let's see this example. And first of all, I want to run the program. What is the output? You have to see that output of the program. Okay, so exception in thread. First of all, I want to close that. So exception in thread main java.lang.null pointer exception. Okay, you have to understand this is a class. This is a class. This is child class of runtime exception. Okay, so the null pointer exception is a which is present into java.lang package. Okay, this means whenever exception is occurred at that moment of time, the object of which type of object is created. So null pointer exception type of object is created by the Java itself. What I'm saying, whenever exception is occurred in our program at that moment of time, null pointer exception class object is created by the Java, and that object contain the message. What message? Message contained by this object is cannot invoke string.length method because local one is null at practice.main. Means this message contained by the particular null pointer exception object, and that object is thrown from the line of code which I'm writing in portion 1 to the handling part, and this handling part fetching the information from the object of this type and printing the message. So by using this, means by using the Java second portion that are capable for printing the message, means this message is printed by the second portion. Okay, means default throw default catch. This example of default throw default catch means first case is here. We're not talking about that. Means I'm not throwing any type of object for, I'm not creating any type of object, I'm not creating any type of, I'm not throwing the object, I'm not creating second portion code which is capable for handling the exception. I'm not doing anything, I'm just writing line of code. So creation of a object and throwing the particular object, and that object contain message, and printing by the second person. This all check, both one person and second person, both job are done by the Java. So this is example of first case, that is default throw and default catch. Okay, I think your concept about first person is complete. First case is complete. Now talking about the second case. I want to remove that. Now I'm talking about the second case. Example of second case means our throw and default catch. What is the meaning of our throw and default catch? So let's see the example again. Just I want to create a variable int num is equal to 456. Okay, 4568, like that. Now if num is negative, then I want to throw an object. Now what is the second case? Our throw and default catch means the code that are contained by the person was is created by me, and code is contained by the second person is created by the Java. Understand what is the meaning of second case? The message or the code contained by the person one is created by our side, but what is the second person, what is the handling portion of code is contained by the Java itself. So this is why the name of the second case is our throw and default catch. Okay, so I have not in second person, in first person I want to what I have to do. So I'm just creating the object, and in that particular object I want to pass the information about that particular exception. Okay, what am my job in first person? My job is to create the particular object. In that particular object I want to give the message information about the exception, and that object is thrown by the Java and thrown by the my side and catch by the Java itself and handled by them. Okay, so I want to do that. First of all I want to create the object. I want to create the object of arithmetic exception class. I want to create the exception of a I want to create the object of a exception class. This is my job because I'm talking about second case, and passing the string as a parameter information about the exception. So I'm passing message here, not valid input. Okay, like this I just want to print the message. And now here I want to throw the object. So Java provides us a keyword which is known as a throw. So this is a throw keyword. By using throw keyword we are able to throw a particular object from portion 1. Understand? By using throw keyword we are able to throw the object from portion 1. So by using throw keyword we are able to throw the object, and I'm just creating the object of arithmetic exception class and passing the information about the particular exception. If this condition is true, then I want to throw the exception. Means throwing the exception from done by our side and catching or handling the exception by the Java side. So let's run the program and see the output. So output is nothing. Why? Because my number is positive, so this condition is false. Now I just want to make my number is negative. So now this condition is true. After throwing the condition I want to throw the exception. So you are able to see the output now. To read the message, exception in thread main.java.lang.arithmetic exception. Because why this is printing arithmetic exception? Because I am creating the object of arithmetic exception and passing as a information as a string in parameter as an argument in constructor of arithmetic exception object. Okay, now the message which I passes, that is printed here, not valid input at practice.main method. Understand? So this is the second case. Means if I want to print a message from my side, if I want to print the message of throwing the object, what is the reason of throwing the object, what is the reason of this exception is occurred. If I want to print our message, so for that I have to follow second case, means our throw and default catch. So you are able to see what is the difference between both of them. This message is printed by the Java and this message printed by the our throw. This is my message, this is our message which I want to print. This is the message in first case when I'm not writing any when I'm not fetching, when I'm not throwing any object. So this is the first case example and this is example of second case. So you are able to see the difference between both of them. If I have to pass my own message, the reason behind the exception, what is the reason, what is the information about the exception. So I have to throw the object, I have to follow second case, means overthrow and default catch. If I did not care about the information what is done by the Java itself, so I'm just follow the first case, means default through and default catch. So this is the done by the this is the second case information, means overthrow and default catch. I'm just creating the condition and creating the object. I am telling you this is the flow of I'm telling the point of in point of flow of exception handling. So this is completely right. I'm just creating the object after occurring the exception. Okay, and in that I am passing as an argument as a string information about the exception, and by using throw keyword I want to throw the exception from portion 1, and Java handled code, handled means portion 2 code contain the exception and printed the message. Okay, so this is example of second case. Now let's move ahead. Let's see the third case, which is very important, means default through an hour catch. Now means I'm not throwing any object whenever the exception is occurred. I'm not writing any line of code for portion 1. I'm just writing second line of code, second portion code, which is capable for handling the exception. Understand? I'm trying to say I'm not writing any line of code which is present into portion 1 where the exception is occurred. I'm just writing the some line of code which is capable for handling the exception. So for that I have to understand some predefined syntax. Just I'm try to write here. Okay, you're able to see I'm just writing this syntax. What is the meaning of syntax? What is the meaning of try? What is the meaning of catch block? What is the meaning of finally block? So let's see one by one. In try block contains some line of code in which I have a doubt, and in which there is a possibility of occurring the exception. What I'm saying, try block contain the code in which there is a possibility of occurrence the exception. If I have doubt that yes, in this 4 or 5 line of code there is a chances of occurrence the exception, so that particular line of code I have to put into try block. Means try block contain the line of code where chances of occurrence the exception. What is the meaning of catch block? In catch block, by using catch block we have to write the second portion code. Means when I'm talking about the catch block, so this is now catch block. So catch block is used for writing the some line of code which is able or capable for handling the exception. Understand what I'm saying? That catch block is used for handling the exception that is thrown by the Java. What is the meaning of finally block? So finally block is nothing but a block which is always printed whenever exception is occurred or not occurred, or a catch block is execute or not execute, in which in any condition, but finally block is always execute. Okay, this is the information about the try block, catch block, and finally block. So try block, I want to repeat that try block contain the code in which there is a possibility, there is a chances of occurrence exception. In catch block is used for writing some line of code which is capable for handling the exception. This is now you are able to understand that try block is the first portion. Okay, you are able to understand what is the meaning of first portion when I'm talking about in first from the starting. Try block means first portion where the chances of occurrence the exception. Catch block is the second portion which is capable for handling the exception, and finally block is the remaining code of our program which I want to print always whenever exception is occurred or not occurred. Understand? So you are able to relate that what is the meaning of first block, what is the meaning of first portion and second portion, and how we are able to run the remaining portion of our program whenever exception is occurred or not. So first portion is known as a try block in which there is a chances of occurrence exception. Second portion which is in which we are writing some line of code which is capable for handling the exception. So second portion is known as a catch block, and finally block is a block which contain the remaining code of our program which is always run whenever exception is occurred or not occurred. So this information about the syntax. Now just I want to why it is provided error, because catch block is a block which looks like a method, but this is not a method. This block contain one argument as a parameter, in which I have to create the any reference variable of exceptions child class or exception class. What I'm saying, in catch block I have to write any child class of exception class of reference variable or any object or any or exception class reference variable. So by using this, whenever exception is occurred in first block, means whenever exception is occurred in throw in try block, object is thrown from the try block, and catch block is here, which contain the, for example, if I'm writing here arithmetic exception. Okay, now what I'm trying to say, you are able to understand. For example, in try block exception is occurred, but the object that is thrown by the Java of occurring the exception, the object type is null pointer exception class. What I'm saying, the object type of that is thrown by the try block is null pointer exception class, but catch block contain the reference variable or object of a arithmetic class exception. At that moment of time, this catch block is not going to be run. Okay, means whenever the exception is occurred or a different type and catch block that contain the different type of object of a class, that moment of time this catch block is not printed, this catch block is not execute. At that moment of time, Java default catch mechanism, means Java catch second portion code or Java catch block is execute. Okay, so the notice point here in this syntax is always we have to write try block only one. We are able to write multiple try catch block in a simple program. Understand? We are able to write one try block but multiple catch block. For example, this I am writing first catch block and I am able to write second catch block, which take the argument as a null pointer exception. Understand? We are able to write that. Means in a single program we are able to write multiple try catch block, but we are only able to write single finally block. We are not able to write repeat. If I want to repeat that finally block, okay, if I want to repeat the finally block, so there is error. We are not able to read the message. Syntax error on finally delete the token. Means we are not able to write multiple finally block. We just have to write one finally block, but we are able to write multiple catch block. For example, in try block, in one means in first portion exception is occurred. Whenever exception is occurred in try block, for example, this object that is thrown by the Java is type of a null pointer exception. So control comes from this try block into second portion, that is catch block, and it matches the argument. Yes, this catch block it take the argument of null pointer exception. Answer is no. This catch block contain the argument as a arithmetic exception. Then control goes here and search for another catch block in our program. Yes, this is a yes. If this is a catch block contain the exception null pointer exception argument, answer is yes. This catch block contain the argument as a null pointer exception object. So this catch block execute. If, for example, if this catch block is not present, if for example this is a another type of exception, means index out of bound exception. Okay, for example, what I'm trying to see in try block, what is the error here? Okay, let's remove. Now I want to tell you one thing. Means in try block, let's assume null pointer exception object is thrown occurred and null pointer exception object is thrown by the Java. Now control comes first in this catch block and checking that this arithmetic exception, means this catch block contain the argument as a null pointer exception. Answer is no. Then control comes and search in our program in another catch block is present or not. If yes, then it comes control here and checking that if this catch block contain the as an argument of null pointer exception. Answer is no. Now if all catch blocks that are present into our program are not capable for taking the argument of a same object type that is thrown by the try block, if not present, then automatically control goes to the default catch mechanism, means Java catch block. Java also create its own catch block which is capable for handling the exception. At that moment of time, control goes to Java default catch mechanism. After running that block, then our finally block is execute. Means finally block is a block which execute always, but this is the rule of try catch block. Now, and the notice point here is always we have to write the syntax of try catch block is in this way. Means after try block we must have to write catch block or finally block. For example, if I want to insert any other line of code, if I want to print message something, okay, so there is an error. Read the message error. Syntax error, insert finally to complete the block statement. Understand? Means we always have to, if I removing these two, understand? If I want to remove these two, so error is not here. Always try, after try block we have to write the catch block or the finally block. This is the rule. This is a fixed syntax. This is a notice point. Note point here is, after try block we must have to write catch block or finally block. Okay, this is the syntax of the third case, that is default to an our catch. Now let's see the example of third case. So I'm just want to write here some line of code in which there is chances of occurrence exception. Okay, so I'm writing int, for example, int ATM pin. Okay, which for example, let's assume like that, if ATM pin is negative, then I want to, if ATM, no, I did not do that. I am taking example of third case. So for that I'm just removing the example. I want to take another example, okay, which is the throwing part of the object is done by the Java itself. So for example, I just want to run the program and just I want to divide this number. Okay, what I'm saying, I'm just writing the some line of code in the Java, means in the try block where there is a chances of occurrence exception. Now exception is occurred from this place, and I want to write some line of code here. So I want to remove this catch block for confusion purpose. Now just comes here and I want to print the message, because this reference variable is catch the object that is thrown by the try block, means portion 1 object is comes, and in catch block portion is, this portion is catch block is contained. So by using this object I want to get the information about the exception by using get message method. I am telling you, throwable class contain one method, that is get message method. Okay, so we are able to use that method for fetching the information about the exception. Means I want to print the message like here, error or error is like that. I want to in here in finally block I want to write some line of code for understanding the purpose of finally block. I am finally block. Okay, now I want to write here like 4. So is there a chances of occurrence of exception? No, because 45 divided by 4 is not any type of exception. So let's run the program and see the output. What is the output of that particular program? So answer is 11, and I am finally block. Means what is happening here? Control comes in try block and this line of code is run. Yes, if there is chances of occurrence of exception, but if the exception is not occurred, then object is not created by the Java automatically. Now if exception is not occurred, then catch block is not printed, and after running this try block successfully, control comes into finally block and then print the message I am finally block. Understand? I think I'm writing the wrong finally. Okay, so I have to remove this n. Now you are able to understand the meaning. Means finally block always executed whenever exception is occurred or not occurred. Now I want to write the here 0, so we are able to see if exception is occurred, then what is the output of this program. So you are able to see the message here, error is divided by 0, then I am finally block. Understand? Means finally block is always execute, but the message that is printed by now is completely different. The message is printed into the second case or in the first case. You are able to see that this is also exception, but this exception, this is also output of the second block or the catch block, but this catch block is the Java itself. Means this is a default catch block which printed exception error is like this, and this is also a exception or a output of the Java which print the message like this, but our message is here. Okay, now this is the special message which we are able to print that by using our catch block. Means I am not writing the code of first portion of a try block, I'm just writing the code of second portion which is capable for handling the exception. So I'm just writing that line of code here, and finally block is always execute. So this is the out. This is a very nice output. This is nice. Means this is a very clear message for telling the user that error message is divided by zero message. Okay. So this is the third example. The third case, which is default through an hour catch, means I'm not writing any line of code for creating the object and throwing the particular object by using throw keyword. I'm just writing try block, and in catch block I want to write some line of code which is capable for handling the exception. Understand? So now let's again remove this. Now I'm talking about last case. Now let's talk about the fourth case of handling the exception, that is hour through an hour catch. Means throwing the exception or creating the object at the moment of time the exception is occurred, and handling the particular type of exception. Means portion 1 code and portion 1 2 code. Mean try block, try catch where the exception is chances of a exception is occurred, and catch block where we are able to write some line of code. So by using that line of code we are handle the exception. All job are done from our side. So just I want to take the example of that. For that I want to mm, take the example like int. Yes, I want to write int. First of all I want to write try block and catch block, which is just writing the exception dot e. Means if I'm writing exception, means any type of exception is occurred in or a throw from try block is taken by that, because all the exception child classes are mm, all the exception child classes of exception class. Understand? Means exception class is the parent class of all types of exception. Means any type of exception are occurred to directly control comes into this catch block. Now I have to write finally block. Let's write some line of code. For example of last case, so I'm just writing int total balance is equal to 5000. Okay, and again I want to write int what I'm saying withdraw balance is equal to 4000. Okay, now I want to check one condition is if total balance is less than withdraw balance, that then I want to throw an exception. Means at that moment of time I want to throw an exception, new arithmetic exception for example, and printing the message here like insufficient or insufficient balance, insufficient balance. Okay, if it is not, then I want to total balance is equal to total balance minus withdraw amount, and then I want to print the message remain balance is total balance. Okay, what I'm doing here, I'm just creating a variable that contain the total balance in account, which is 5000. I want to withdraw amount 4000. Now if condition is if total balance is less than withdraw amount, means I want to withdraw more money that is not present in total balance in our account. At that moment of time I want to create exception and throw the exception by using the throw keyword and passing the message insufficient balance. Now if this condition is not true, that control comes here, and total balance is equal to total balance minus withdraw balance. Then I want to print the total balance, means remaining balance. Here just I want to write message exception is e dot get message. Okay, so by using the reference variable of the object that is thrown from this line, I want to fetch it and printing the message by using this get message method. In finally block, I just want to write I am, or just I want to write transaction is done, like that. Okay, so just I want to, if I want to review the code, this line of code. So first I am writing try block which contain the total balance variable in which I put 5,000, and I want to withdraw amount 4,000. If total balance is less than withdraw amount, then I want to throw an object or throw an exception by using the arithmetic class exception. And last one is I want to print the message or passing the message in a particular constructor of the object during through the object message is insufficient balance. If total balance is greater than withdraw amount, then I want to means then I just want to print message like here, means transaction success. Okay, and in new line I want to print the remaining balance of the account. And catch block, if let's assume exception is occurred, then I want to just printing the message that is thrown by me from this constructor. After that, in finally block, I'm just writing the message transaction is done. Means this line is always printed whenever exception is occurred or not. So now I'm just writing here 4,000 withdraw amount, so exception is not occurred. So let's run the program and see the output. Output here is transaction success and remaining balance is 1,000, transaction is done. Understand? Means after withdrawing 4,000, 1,000 balance is remaining, means, and then finally block execute. Now let's assume I want to withdraw 6,000 amount. Understand? I want to withdraw 6,000 amount which is not present in our balance in our account. So run the program and see the output. Exception is insufficient balance, transaction is done. Okay, exception क्या है अभी? Insufficient balance. Understand? Means we are not able to fetch the more amount which is not present in our program. This is a simple example of last case, means our through our catch. In this line of code, I am in try block, I am writing the first portion of code in which there is a chances of occurrence the exception. After occurring the exception, I have to create the object, that in that object I have to put the information about that exception and throw the object from portion 1 to portion 2, means from try block to catch block. And catch block I have to get the exception object and printing the information from the object. And this finally block is execute the all time whenever exception is occurred or not occurred. Okay, means if I have some remaining or important code which I want to print, I want to execute always in any case, so I have to write that line of code into finally block. So I think your concept about the all four cases, means default throw, default catch, our throw, default catch, default throw, our catch, and last one is our throw, our catch is completely clear. If you have any doubt also till now, so please comment. I'm damn sure I respond your doubt in the very best way. And second thing is, this is a complete video of type 1 means type 2 exception. This is which is what? Unchecked exception, means this all information about unchecked exception. In second part video I just start the first type of exception, that is checked exception, means all information about checked exception is coming in